What's worse than death? There was a job where I was finishing up job training, and at the end of it, I had to listen to corp speak. People who actually have a job know what this is. Dumbasses who don't have a job just do what you always do and forget this information. LOL. For an hour or two. You know how they say in a boxing ring 3 minutes feels like an eternity? Well, hearing an hour of corp speak feels like I lived 3 lives and died of old age and suffered in horrible agony. This is why I hate business. To win is to bore everyone, and once you do that, then you pretty much won the game of business. Getting disfigured by burns. When my wife found out about my affair, she told me to cut off contact with my AP. I packed my things and left. Instead, herself on fire while I was gone. I'd apparently changed her mind partway through and put it out, but it was too late to stop her hair follicles from being singed off, and her face was partially disfigured. She took a lot of pride in her hair, but she wears wigs now. And every time I see her, I don't recognize the beautiful woman I was once married to, and she's become a shell of herself, physically and spiritually. The feeling of purposelessness. What do I mean? The feeling that you're supposed to be doing something and that you can be doing something and you can and you should and you would ... But, for whatever reason, you're not. Not that you're doing something else. That you're watching life pass you by with nothing you can do. This can come through paralysis, indecisiveness, lazy or other factors. But feeling all that potential wasting away while life is out there just waiting to be lived sucks really bad. The deepest depths of depression where you have no will to live. But also the guilt of wanting to die, and the horror of the knowledge of what it would do to your friends and family. Every minute wanting to escape, but knowing you can't. Or you'll drag those around you down into those depths too. To those of you in these depths, no, it does get better. This was me 5 years ago. And now I'm the most happy I have ever been in my life. Ales. Leaving nothing extra to save or be able to do anything fun with. Then having other people tell you just get a new job then when that is almost impossible for people in a certain age demographic. Been trying for 2 years. It feels like being in purgatory. A $200 emergency shouldn't be a life-changing event. Aunts being deeply in debt, not being able to get a job, getting too close to Swaysick to escape this, and visit my grandma being porn a dick to push the pain and stress away, all at the same time. Our own in friggin' dark cold room already worse than death itself. Then there's something worse like being in coma and still have awareness, at no control of your body, till your death arrive. Slowly. So yeah, there are a lot of horror out there worse than death. In the UK, we call it MND. It's a neurological disease where a person can feel pain and discomfort, but over time you lose the power to move. Can you imagine putting your hand onto a hot surface and not being able to move it away? Death happens when your motor nerves can't cause your chest to expand, so you suffocate and die an awful death. Death isn't bad per se. It's just the end of everything. Think about when you go to sleep and don't dream. That's what death is like. Except you never wake up. It's just the black void you go back to. Run, swim, talk, read and travel while you can, because it'll all be over for all of us before we know it. Life is short. Solitary confinement. But for life, imagine never seeing another living being for the rest of your life. Just you, your room and 3 meals that appear at set times. Even worse if there's no windows. All artificial lighting, no external sound, no day-night cycle. Sometimes I think this would be worse than the death penalty. Is either waiting for death or the imaginary thought of being on a boat in the middle of an endless sea. And someday you could find land. But if not dealt with in time, the engine will run out of fuel. It's more of a reference to another thing, but I cannot really picture it right now. I had a close family member, the closest person to me in the world, take his own life a few years ago. I've had to watch him slowly lose his mind and fall deeper into depression for decades. Sometimes I think if someone just killed me, it would hurt less than the cumulative pain of seeing all that and the aftermath. An ending life. I can imagine it would be cool to be immortal for a while. But at some point, you are going to wish for it to end, even if it's only after the planet has been consumed by the sun. The entirety of humanity is gone, and you are floating in the endless expanse of space. Why day of my life good and absolutely terrible, and realized I had no memory of my life. I can't barely function now, just found 3 sports trophies, MVP championship, etc. Barely remember playing those games. Hospice nurse here. I can think of a lot. End-stage cirrhosis. End-stage cancer, especially of the bone. Wounds that even turning every 2 hours can't prevent because they haven't ate in 2 weeks but won't let go. The death rattle. There are far worse things than death. Absolute immortality with perfect memory and an unavoidable heat death of the universe. Stuck on a dead piece of stone for 100 years and beyond to eternity, with no simulation or whatsoever. If you go so far as to refuse the mind madness, then it will be even worse. Waiting for death. I have seen my dad and my sister on their deathbeds, and just the thought of lying there knowing it's coming. But when ... This is topped by the even worse waiting for death while suffering. They both suffered. Cancer can fuck right off. Living in a body that isn't right. Knowing if you transition it's going to cost you people you love. And that most people will see you as off-putting if you do. You can't imagine the self-loathing. Death is like someone I really like but never returns my calls. Being an abused man in an abusive relationship. You want to feel truly alone. Try to find a support group or a self-help book for men abused by women. Because there's fucking not one. And I have been lucky enough to be that man ... twice. I welcome death. There were few cases of people going into a vegetative state for decades and being kept alive artificially. They had full hearing and brain activity. Some of them could repeat conversations that the nurses had, thinking that they were not overheard. Like the thought of just dying and potentially not see anything again. Not be able to do anything again, so even though life, suffering I bear it cause it's all I have, so yeah, torture is worse than death. Definitely life in prison, you lose everything but you're still alive to see it. I've never understood why people facing these circumstances don't just die in shootouts. Why let yourself be taken alive to suffer a fate worse than death? The fate of a grave mind. It consumes your body, but your conscience is still alive, forever being tortured by ageless cosmic horror, knowing you literally have no purpose left in life. But you can never die, so you're never at rest. Dying while every regret flashes for eternity, not knowing you already died. I imagine that's what hell is like. The dying scene in 6 Feet Under probably mirrors what I think are the last moments of a person with full of regrets. I'll accidentally run over someone else's child, or get in a car accident and hurt somebody, paralyze them or something. I don't think I could live with that. I would rather be the one hurt or dead. Being kidnapped and held in someone's basement for unimaginable reasons. I often think about how many people worldwide are in this exact situation right now, and no one knows where they went, or if they're even still alive. On dialysis wanting to die for 3 of them, watching 27 people die beside you in that same amount of time, or doing paracentesis 2 times a week. Over now, but I never wanted anything else at the time. On dialysis wanting to die for 3 of them, watching 27 people die beside you in that same amount of time, or doing paracentesis 2 times a week. Over now, but I never wanted anything else at the time. Being locked up in solitary confinement with no one to talk to for the rest of your life. I think that's a fate worse than death, since it can really mess up your mind when you have no one to talk to about anything. I guess being someone like Hitler forever, to be remembered as this horrible human being who was responsible for such evil acts. To be remembered like that forever is something even death cannot liberate you from. That Russian prison for life sentences where you aren't allowed to sit down or nap or see anything besides your 4 walls. Lights on all day, all night. No blanket, no chair, day after day, year after year. I think of the poor kid in Chicago going to college when some random asshole shot him in the neck. Severed his spinal cord just below his brain. He was basically turned into a head on a stick. Horrible. death of loved ones, family and friends, etc. Especially if it was caused by some sort of accident that you consider your fault and you are the only one who lived. Survivor's guilt will wreck you, just struggling in life. And when you think of the big picture of your life, or where you are in life, you start getting flushed. Hot flashes, just overwhelmed by the BS you have to put up with. Stone man syndrome. It turns your muscles and tendons to bone, until one day you can't move. Fuck that. Diseases like trigeminal neuralgia, cursed with unending pain for the rest of your life. A friend has had it for 2 decades and it's been tough seeing what it did to him. Locked-in syndrome. It's a type of paralysis where you cannot move any part of your body except maybe your eyes, but are conscious and aware the whole time. There is no cure. I saw a video of some rival cartel guy being eaten alive but to pit bulls. Dick first. He's well aware of what's occurring. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. Losing everyone in your family before you die. My grandma is one of 11 kids. She's been the only member of her family still alive for about a decade now. The title of a semi-good song where the anti-queen's the guitar is very boring but the vocals are good. Living a meaningless life. Not to say that a particular way of living is meaningless, but when you can't see any meaning in your life, that's horrifying. A life subjected to no freedom. The loss of freedom of speech like in America. The loss of individuality to be who you are and celebrate who you are.